plot holes in Final Fantasy VII. How bloody dare you insinuate such a thing, you bugger. What's good, my fellow peasants? How you doing? So a little discussion video coming out covering Tristan Jurgovic's of Game Rant's top 10 plot holes that were never explained. And this is going to be a good discussion to see whether these really are holes, and if they are, how do I think the remake will approach them? And I just wanted to cover this because there's some juicy things I want to dive off. So let's start off at number 10, and it's simply, how does Rufus survive? Now, of course, he gets blown to smithereens, to total buggery. Diamond weapon hits the building, and it looks like the entire top floor just gets completely KO'd. Now, I think that with this particular plot hole, because Advent Children came around, they did a good job. Now, Rufus is now in a wheelchair, though he's actually kind of faking it. He looks like he's a little bit injured on the side of his face again, even though he's faking it. He seems fine, because then he ends up being completely fine. But I think there was a little explanation that I think the desk chair, he sort of ducked under it, and it was a sort of reinforced table, I think, and that he simply scurried under, and that helped him with the explosion. Whether or not you like that explanation, that's what I think it is. So moving straight on to number 9, the Turks plane. This is simply when the submarine shoots down a plane, the Guernica, it crashes into the water, and Rena and Rude show up on there. Now, I've always wondered how they then get back out. Like, does another submarine come and get them? I think Eleanor does. But either way, the article points out that at some point, because the Guernica is a side quest, you can actually end up encountering Rufus and Reno on land, when technically they should be sunken under the sea waiting for you there. So they appear in both places when they shouldn't. It's definitely a hole. It's just the structuring of a free roaming JRPG. But what I definitely do wonder is how the remake's going to deal with these free events. Like, what was all optional and sidey? How's the remake going to go about it? Of course, we're wondering about Wutai, indeed the entire Lucretius Cave. Is that also going to be optional? I can't really see it, because now everything's going to be so voiced and so animated in cutscenes. That I got to say, I do think that the remake, from my suspicion, will be more linear experience. And while I hope they still keep in the aspect of freedom, of free events, because that's just what makes JRPGs always feel so alive and full, I could definitely see a lot of that getting skimmed down and shoehorned in. But number 8, you guys get controlling Cait Sith. Cait bloody Sith, lassie. I really hope they don't keep the Scottish accent, but Cait Sith, I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below whether you love or hate this dude. But the article asked the question, how the hell does Reeve control this thing? At any point in the world. Like, it doesn't matter where Cait goes, Reeve seems to be able to channel through it, have a conversation. How strong is the GPS on this bugger? And also he says, secondly, how did he control it when he had a whole department to run in what I imagine was a very busy time in Shinra? So great questions, and the thing that really intrigued me with this one is the idea, and I've always had it, that Cait Sith is kind of semi-sentient. I think this has been implied, even parts of Dirge Cerberus that pointed it out, where even Reeve himself is kind of surprised by how sentient this Cait Sith being is. And I really hope the remake goes into this. Like, how much of it is Reeve? And then how much of it is this mechanical, automated being? Like, we definitely see in the Temple of the Ancients, we see the sadness that Cait Sith has, that even though he knows a new model will come, he's an individual model. And while Cait Sith can definitely be an annoying, treacherous, backstabbing, weird, awkward little feck of a character, I think there is so much that they could go into in themes of like AI, especially with how interesting a subject that's become to people now, of machines becoming self-aware. Square Enix, they definitely have a little golden opportunity with Cait to turn him into more than just an annoyance, and actually into a theme that presents some pretty deep ideas. That's what I think anyway. But let me know what you guys think. And then number 7, the reunion. It's one I didn't really get. I mean, I get it. It's when they go and they meet the black cloak dudes in the Northern Crater, and some of them are like lobbing themselves off into the abyss, and some of them are just sort of evaporating on the spot. So he says, throughout the adventure, Cloud will come across what appears to be folks in black cloaks, and when he talks to them, he usually finds Toad. These are supposed to be clones of Sephiroth, question mark? Well, definitely that's what they are. But what I always find really interesting, this is another side story I really hope the remake sort of fleshes out, is these clones actually are becoming subservient to Sephiroth over Jenova, because the question of how do they just disappear when talked to, are they just illusions? What's going on? I'd say they are Jenova's cells, and we often see manifestations of Sephiroth, or even the big Jenova thing, that they kind of just disappear, and no, there's always like a little claw left or something very small. I wouldn't overthink it. I wouldn't also call it a plot hole. But what I definitely want to see is that battle between Jenova and Sephiroth. They have very similar motives. We definitely see in the game when those motives part ways. Jenova wants utter dominance and the crushing of the Cetra and the planet, where Sephiroth then starts to want to rule it himself. And we actually see his will overpower Genova's. And as that sort of happens, it's interesting because we see more of the Sephiroth come through. We see more of his memories return, which is again such a huge theme. Like, he starts to remember Cloud more and the past, and just more of his traits begin to emerge. So I really hope they make that into the remake. And number 6, Aerith's death. What plot hole existed here? Huh? After all, characters. Oh god, the simple need to be revived with a phoenix down. Why didn't they just phoenix down Aerith? Why did they need to die? It doesn't make any sense. This has been floating around for so damn long. I just noticed I still got my 14 border going on. It's very simple. I don't know how people still don't get at this point. Phoenix downs revive people from KO, knockout, unconsciousness, taking a whack to the noggin, not actual death itself. Now I get that, we're fighting monsters and some of them are cleaving us with 60-foot long axes, and entire solar systems and suns in the final fight are being sent to obliterate the very planet on which we stand. So there is an air of ridiculousness to it. How do we survive those things? But not just a single stab through the middle. And again, this is something that the remake, I don't know, are they going to keep that ridiculousness there? How the hell are you going to present entire cosmos is getting destroyed and summons that actually cleave up the earth before us and lift it into the sky and then launch it into the ground? It's crazy, and I'm so hyped to see whether they keep it that way. I feel like with the visuals, like the aesthetic of the game, the whole reason why they went into Unreal Engine, I always remind people back to when Nomura was first talking about it, that they wanted to use this over Luminous Engine. I mean, they probably want to use Luminous Engine because it's a pig, but because it does have that more artistic, poppy, flexible kind of visual to it, that I really think can bring all of those ridiculousnesses forward. But yeah, she died because she got deaded through the middle. Not knocked out, but we all kind of know that. Number 5, Tifa and Aerith not speaking up. So he brings up that, when Cloud is confused and he doesn't know who he is and he thinks that he is Zack Fair, why the hell doesn't Aerith say something? He says it never really came up that they look alike. Now I would just straight up say, did you never date Aerith in your playthrough of FF7 Tristan? Because she definitely mentions it. She definitely mentions the similarities. But what I am curious about is like Gongaga. Oh, this place. What are they going to do with it? So that's Zack's family hometown. It's also Angeal's. I really hope they just load that place out with Easter eggs. And it does make me wonder, like when we go and see Zack's parents, how that interaction is going to go down. And I've often wondered, did they never have any pictures of their son around the house that Cloud could have looked at and, I don't know, had like some sort of flash of an experience? Well, all of those things are now possible in the remake, and indeed, as you all know, Nomura's going to be looking to expand and flesh out things. So actually what we call, or Tristan calls, a plot hole here, I actually see it as the plot opportunity for the remake. The part with Tifa, he mentions, why did she keep quiet? When Cloud comes back and he's ill and she sort of takes him back into Avalanche, she don't tell him nothing. Now this was also addressed, so it's not really a hole. Tifa kind of mentioned that she didn't want to say anything because of what had happened and she didn't want him to leave. Was afraid of what would happen if she told him. And actually this is another huge theme that the remake, the original teetered on, and the remake can go next step with. Tifa's great big lying fibs. She tells some naughty porkies and keeps a lot of the information to herself. How many times we actually see Tifa allude to it. Now, it might not be easy to recognize those moments, when it's just text-based, like when she's just like, Cloud, ... And she's like, Cloud, you know, when he says certain things. There's even times when she's like, I can't tell you anything about that yet. I can't answer that. I'm not ready. It's not the right time. She says loads of these kind of things. And what I just think is even better than with the remake now is we don't really need her to say these things, just the expressions that Tifa's going to be able to pull in response to things about Cloud and his past and the struggles he's going through. Her face is going to tell such a picture, and that's again another thing that Nomura and Katase both have said, that new technologies are being implemented, new mocap ones as well, to actually bring the faces into the story in a whole other way. So, oh god, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So number 4, waiting for Meteor. Is this a plot hole? Oh right, okay, I see. You know, this is the guy saying that, no, when we go and meet Sephiroth in this temple, and he says there's 7 days till Meteor come down. Now, we can actually play in because there is an in-game timer and an in-game date system. We can play way over 7 days and Meteor doesn't show up. So this made me really wonder, an in-game time mechanic. I'd love to know what you guys think, but do you hate them or do you love them? And indeed, do you think they'll implement one in this case? Because when we go to things like, say, Lightning Returns, that had a huge in-game structure. The world was going to end on a certain day, and everything is a countdown to that point. If you're not done with your side questing and gallivanting around the world at that point, tough titties. It's over. Type 0 had a very similar thing. There was in-game times, and that led to certain missions that you'd either miss or not miss. And there's been loads of other games, specifically one that points out to me is Persona, another huge one. You have a set limit in time. Now, I know fans feel kind of each side about this, and I'd like to know where you guys sit. Some don't like the pressure of it. I want to be able to play the game at my pace, and that ever hovering time just puts like a modicum of anxiety on their entire playthrough that they do not find enjoyable. Personally, I actually like it. And I'm surprised. I love the time elements in Lightning Returns. It gives everything a feeling of urgency, importance, gravity. It really makes you think about what you're doing and how you're spending your time. And there is an argument to be said that that should be the feeling you have during the apocalypse. You know, Final Fantasy X would allow you to go fucking blitz balling at the pinnacle of the story, although sometimes it did stop you doing that. But there's so many different ways to present that theme of urgency. I think for whoever don't like 13, that's one of the things I love about that, is how absolutely submerged you were in being on the run, of like being criminals who were trying to escape, and at no point did that game let up. Like, even if you stopped at somebody's house for a cup of tea, like Hope's dad, the army would show up and it'd be straight back into the Tennessee. I love that, and I hope the remake does carry some of that. But there is a question to be said, how will they do it across an episodic structure? But I've never seen it. The article writer though compares it to when Dragon Ball Z, when Frieza says Namek will blow up in 5 minutes, and then that 5 minutes lasts another 20 episodes later. Now, so Cloudception. Now, this is one I find deeply curious. In fact, this is probably one of the scenes I am most looking forward to and I've spoken about the most recently. And of course, this is when Tifa goes into his memories. The article writer asks, how does this work? How does the life stream allow Tifa to go into Cloud's consciousness? Now, how exactly does that work? What is the live stream anyway? What does it even mean? At the end of the day, when it comes to Japanese RPGs, fans have to just swallow it. Good point, sir. Good point, touche. But what I would counter back to this is what the live stream is. We had Bugan Hardigan explain elements of it. In terms of like universalism, in terms of everyone on this planet being an organism that is part of one self-sustaining system. No one life source energy and consciousness exists in this universal source. It's woven into the fabric of reality, and what I'd say is they can go so much further with that, based on even like new sciences that are coming out now. So I'll actually leave a link to this video in the description, but there's a physicist called Vishen Lakhiani. In fact, I have the video up here. This guy here, he's actually done some groundbreaking work. He's in space-time theory, in zero-point energy, in exactly how the mind of the universe works. And he's actually up for some awards for what he has discovered. And I bring it into this video because one of the points he brought up, and this blows my mind, guys, is based on the formulas that him and his scientific team have put together, on the algorithms that extend on beyond Albert Einstein's original space-time theory, he's actually changing it to the space memory theory rather than space-time. And the idea here is that time, equationally, mathematically, statistically, datally quantifiable at this point, does not exist, and that memory is what gives the universe time. But these vectors, they're all folding over each other, that they're all existing at the same time. And what the team has found, which is quite mind-blowing, is that each of us as individuals, all of our experiences, all of us living our lives and living our consciousnesses, is we are specific points of space-time that are feeding information to the actual universe itself. That they found that the whole thing is on a feedback structure. Now, I'll play you a little clip in a sec. And what it's saying is this is actually how the universe is expanding. This is how it's learning. It's actually learning from these individual coordinates of space-time, and the feedback loop is actually capable of sending information back into the past, and from it restructure itself, reorganize itself, become more evolved. And screw it, here's the little clip.
Like a feedback structure of information through the universal network.
So in other words, the universe is feeding information to itself.
Exactly, and that's how it grows, and that's how it becomes more and more complex and highly organized.
So the universe is becoming more conscious as time goes on.
Exactly, it's getting wiser.
The universe is getting wiser and wiser.
Yes.
Right? But the other
Hopefully.
But the other thing is,
we're leaving information on the Planck oscillating field of space-time, on the electromagnetic field of space-time, and that's what we call our memory. That memory is not in the brain. Basically, it's saying that consciousness is not in your brain, but your brain and your whole body is like a bio-oscillator antenna tapped into that field of
Ooh, that blew my nuts on a Saturday. And I think that this would be so interesting, is that if memory is really that integral to the fabric of time, to consciousness, which is a universal structure now. It's not just something that hippies taking acid in a tent in the middle of the Peruvian jungle talk about. Scientists have actually started hitting that precipice now. And if the live stream acts as a source of planetary memory, then the ability for Tifa to go into Cloud's memory is possible, because Vision also substantiates that because of this feedback system, this feedback loop system through 0 point energy that's happening, that all of our consciousness are inherently connected and that exchanges can happen between them. So for Cloud to be reconnecting and reorganizing himself as a person through a feedback loop structure of the live stream, it actually is scientifically plausible. But there we go. Hope that helps, Tristan. Moving on to number 2, the fate of Yuffie and Vincent. So let's talk about them real quick. First of all, it stinks. Even if the players can't get them, that they aren't in the ending cinematic. Yeah, we know how you feel. On top of that, how exactly is Yuffie getting around all of these forests in order to surprise the party? And why is Vincent in a coffin? Well, I mean, she's a sprightly ninja who's on the run and has been climbing trees all her life, so that's part of like Yuffie's backstory. Even with Vincent, why is he in a coffin? Why he put himself in there to atone for what he did. You know, we learn in Dirge of Cerberus that he also has a very dangerous materia implanted within his body, and that's also substantiated in FF7 the original, I believe. I don't know, correct me on this one. I'm pretty sure it is that Vincent knows he has a deadly materia and that he kind of locks himself away, not only to atone for what he did to Lucretia, but also because he believes he is dangerous. And yeah, that's why I'd say he's locked in Vincent in a big, dark, scary basement. I wouldn't agree with this last statement that they feel like rushed additions to these games. Because I didn't feel that. It took me so long to get Vincent. I'm telling you guys, I fucking, oh god, I wanted to find him, and I must have spent 40 hours running up and down the Shinra building. The one in Midgar. I touched every tile. I literally pressed every object, surface, precipice, wall, statue, person in that goddamn building for so many hours, because I wanted to get this character, and the only thing that an online guide told me I don't think it was an online one. I think it was a book one. It just said, he's in the Shinra building. Be more specific! The Shinra mansion, you bitch! The shit. But either way, do I think that the remake, you know, we've all asked, I think these are going to be optional. Absolutely not. We're not going to have random versions of the cutscenes and cinematics where they're not in it, even with them in it. That's just too much work to do both options, and indeed there just is no need for it. So I'm absolutely confident pretty much on this point, but I still want them to allude to them being optional. In fact, there's so much alluding that too, that they can do to like things that happened in the original, and I don't know how quirky or wacky they should or could go with it, but what do you guys think? Like, do you think, for example, when Aerith sees the sick guy, like she should actually say, this guy are sick, like say it with your voice? I mean, it could be so hilarious for to do shit like that. Yeah, even have Cloud like just pull like a little subtle expression at it, and then like the joke's gone, and the old fans will get it, but new ones will be like, what the fuck, and then they can share, and that'd just be the beauty of the remake, like little wacky fun little things like that. Yeah, I'd love to see it. And then finally, fighting weapons. Now they bring up the point that these things are massive, they are super powerful. It takes like 2 shots of the giant cannon in Midgar, the sister ray, yeah, that's what it's called, to barely even like make a dent on these things. How the hell does Cloud and crew come in and even manage to take down these things? Like, how's that going to be presented in the remake? And their power level not just seem ridiculously like different to what it should be. I know this is the question we're sort of going towards. Are we leaning towards realism with this game? Is this what this article writer is kind of alluding to, that, you know, just because the game's graphics have been upscaled to, you know, AAA, should things now seem more realistic? I would argue it doesn't have to, and why does it need to? But I'd also say, you know, in terms of how do they beat the weapons, the power of friendship, baby. Have you never played a Kingdom Hearts game? The power of friendship's how they're going to do it. I mean, just look at Advent Children. I can really see even playing like that. Like when Bahamut Sin shows up, that thing is a beast. That thing is a beast, and we see how the crew go about taking it down, and it's all taking like little chips out the side, and some great wacky ending. Some of these scenes can just be absolutely breathtaking, but it's always because the FF7 crew, they become more organised. They put, and this is like the same with like any Final Fantasy, and that's what I really want to see with the remake. We certainly see it with like 13, even with 15 at times, but not as sort of directly tied in thematically. Like how the team goes from being dysfunctional at the start and not very effective as a bunch, but as the game progresses, you start seeing them being able to, you know, work together. We start seeing those scenes like with the Eidolons like throwing the characters and the other ones coming and then blocking and I want to see all this with the remake, and I'd love to see that progression happen until we reach a level where we can take down these horrifying mofos. So there we go, guys. Those are the 10 plot holes that Tristan thinks are plot holes. I'd more call half of these either just like logical realism holes, you know, Abdon believe it holes more than plot holes, but there's so many more. I mean, there's a whole other articles. Palmer's unknown fate. What happened to him after he got smacked by the bus? Was Palmer Genova in that office? There's been theories on that. Though Genova taking on form of that fat ass would just be hilarious. I can't wait to see Palmer. The True Nature Minerva, I brought that up in my last video. Will this goddess reappear? I hope so. Amazing Bluetooth signal brought up yet again. Weapons are bad at their job. Again, planetary defenses that have been spawned from the very crust of the Earth herself. I definitely want to see what kind of consciousness is behind the producing of those, and just the topic of consciousness as a whole in the last year. I want all of those themes to be presented so much stronger. Zangan has energy injuries. I ain't gonna read it. He's just a badass. The truth behind Nibelheim. I don't know. An inconsistent truth. Oh, yeah, I will quickly cover this one. Inconsistent truth. They say like Midgar looks like a very run down, horrible, obviously like steampunky city. Why is it then that places like Calm look like happy little generic towns? You know, what's that about? We do have a good explanation on that. Is there's a part of a story, I can't remember what part of the universe it comes from, someone might have to remind me, but Calm isn't actually Calm as it was. It's actually a new build. Calm had a firebomb explosion happened. It was called the Calm Fire bombings. It was when Midgar were testing weapons and they actually leveled the town. I think it was Zack's mate Kunzel. His family actually died in those fire bombings, I think. And then Shinra, to cover up their mistake, they actually rebuilt the town. So that's why I think it's like a new build, kind of hiding a controversy town. That's what I'd say to that. And then Sephiroth's sparing nature. Why does he leave so many people alive? You know, like Shinra, especially Hojo, who had like a direct role in ruining his life. Why doesn't Sephiroth go on a bit more of a rampage? I don't know. That's a good question. I definitely think the last time Sephiroth gets really gritty is that massacre he has in the labs. But we don't know. The motives and the thought patterns behind Sephiroth is something that we can really see more of. The asbestos Shinra Mansion. I mean, it's a good point, especially when the village was razed to the ground. How the hell did shitloads of asbestos not get released into the mansion? The obnoxious spy, we will say that the truth about evil is, I don't even know. Genova species, it's all there. Anyway, I've covered a few of the plot holes. Oh yeah. Genesis. Is he back? Is he back after Dirge Cerberus? What happened to Weiss and all of that lot? I mean, that's all compilation stuff, which again, Nomura has said, they're breaking, so none of that stuff is going to be canonical anymore. So I don't really see any of that being an issue. But I definitely want this. I loved Cisne as a character. What happened to her? Can she appear? What about like Shotgun and Dagger and all the other Turks? I don't know. Either way, feels damn good to talk about the remake. I love it. March is coming, guys. Hold out. So again, Tokyo Game Show, I expect is when we're going to see some more news. Gamescom coming up recently, perhaps we'll see something there. But I think based on everything I know on Square Enix and how they handle their pre-game nuptials, that sounds like a right word, very soon they're going to start accelerating the pace of the remake. And I just want to say I'm so hyped to have this channel, and if you are not comment, liked and subscribed, then why the hell not? My remake is going to be the best playthrough. I'm a professional and you guys are awesome, so let me know what you think in the comment section below. Until the next video, go.